you were saying that it was choice, and I don't know if we had sort of a mental choice to not wear high heels at certain points when you're dressed up with the gloves and the hats and the suits and the pearls. Good, thanks for that. And the circle pin. What else?
Did you wear that to class? Did you wear heels to class?
I'm not sure. But if you were Gracious Living, I suppose we did. I think we did.
We did wear heels to Gracious Living.
Yeah.
And
hose
Gracious
and
Living now?
girdle. Oh, what is Gracious Living?
What is Gracious Living? You don't know what you've missed. Every Wednesday evening, we had to come down to, and Sunday, we had to come down to dinner well dressed. There were tablecloths on the table. We were served, we sat, and we had to mix with other people in our dorm. We had napkins, and we had a proper meal.
And no slacks? Was it no slacks?
No slacks.
Yeah. Skirts.
Oh, absolutely, skirts.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I know trustees who think we should bring it back.
And stockings and girdles.
Forgot about that.
Bermuda shorts. No, jeans were like the beginning of jeans on campus. Gym suits, yeah, we were allowed to wear gym suits. Senior year, we could wear our commencement robes over pajamas. You could wear your commencement robe anywhere, senior year. I was driven around the campus from the time I was a little girl because my parents were in Holyoke, or we visited my grandmother in Holyoke, and my mother went here as a day student, so she was very keen to have me come and live here because she didn't know what that was like. And my father was very keen to have me go to a state school. So I don't know what the interaction was between them, but I did come here.
Well, in my family, people didn't generally go to college, but my brother ventured out to Amherst, and he was 4 years ahead of me. And I started to think about what I wanted to do, and he said, I think Mount Holyoke will be a good place for you. And I didn't question what he said. This was just seemed the right thing to do. I applied, I got in, and here I am.
There were lots of things we didn't question. Oh, don't get me started. Okay. I was brought to Mount Holyoke by a friend of my mother's. Actually, she was a Mount Holyoke graduate, and she was coming up here for something. She brought my mother and me to look at the campus. I was in 9th grade. It was pouring rain, and I said, oh, I like this place. This is nice. And my girlfriends and I remember we went to the library, and we looked up in colleges what things you had to take in high school in order to qualify for a sort of girls' Ivy League, Seven Sisters school, and made sure that we took all the right things in high school. So I was really geared for Mount Holyoke from 9th grade on. I'm very happy with the choice. My parents were very happy with the choice. My father, the only thing was, he said, and again, this is a 50-year difference, I think. He said, I want you to be able to graduate from college being able to support yourself in case something happens to your husband.
Sunday evening when there was chapel, we would go out into the choir would, and I guess everybody would join us, around the sundial and sing the good night song. People sing that anymore or do that anymore. Yes, it was so sweet and so peaceful, and especially in the spring. It was wonderful.
I was just mentioning, I really loved it when there was, when you had to write a paper, you had some, horrendous assignment, and you needed to find a place where you could really let your mind be free, and to be, in other words, free from distractions and all the things that go on. And there was the place was one of the seminar rooms in the library. They, as I recall, they had green felt tables. Anyway, it sounds like a casino,
yeah.
but anyway. And you could go in there with your pencil or pen and a pad of yellow paper and just, you know, sit there and let your mind create. And I just loved that. Of course, that was not when I was doing mathematics, but that was okay.
I'd love to say something elevated about my favorite moments at Mount Holyoke. But in fact, some of it was about being free to be whomever you wanted to be. And I remember one time, after probably some miserable political science assignment for Ruth Lawson, along with two of my classmates who are in this room, we went outside and we were joking around and fantasizing about the future. We began just rolling down the hill. And it was so free. Would I have been able to do that anyplace else? I don't know.
Can I add one more thing? I was thinking about this last night. What did I learn here and where did I learn it? I learned a lot from playing bridge after lunch and dinner on the floor in Pearson's. It was great.
In the smoker?
Well, outside the smoker, but we could run in there. Yeah.
Do they know about the smoker?
Yeah,
Could you
know?
say what the smoker is? Because they won't.
Do you want to say what it is?
Well, there was certainly, I was in Torrey, and there was a room that was set aside for girls that wanted to smoke, and the bridge, you know, playing would go on in that room. And I don't think we thought very much about it because, you know, my mother and father smoked. Everybody smoked, right?
In fact, the right to smoke was very hard won by the class of the 20s.
Oh, that's right.
They had to fight for the right to smoke.
To have the smokers.
Besides holding bunnies during final times in the library, my favorite memories have truly been staying up late having conversations with my peers. Just talking to the myriad of Mount Holyoke students and hearing their diverse experiences and just conversation and laughter, whether or not you have class at 8:30 in the morning the next day, has been something that has enriched me the most, I think, during my time here. So those are my favorite memories.
I'll also choose a late night memory. I think a lot of people from the class of 2012 know this. There's a 7-Eleven within driving distance where if you go between maybe 1:30 and 3:30, the guy who works there will give you free donuts. And so there were many nights my sophomore year that I remember really vividly. Well, sort of vividly. They're kind of mixed in with papers that I was writing or whatever, or not writing. But I remember driving over there with one of my best friends from school who's graduated a few years ago. And we would pick up more caffeine and whatever we needed to get us through the last 2 or 3 pages. And then we would grab the rest of the donuts and bring them back to the Dell's kitchen and leave them out for whoever else was doing an all-nighter. So.
Didn't we have to be in the dorm by 10?
And we didn't have
Well,
cars.
no, Friday and Saturday were different.
No
Friday
cars.
and Saturday, no cars.
Senior year, if you had a certain average.
Someone in our studio audience wants to know what a circle pin is.
It was either silver or gold, and it was literally a circle, and you pinned it just about here. And was there any other ornaments on it, or was it just really plain?
Sometimes they were jeweled.
Oh, were they jeweled? What's it for? I don't know. I forget. There's one.
Example.
I suppose it was our version of a tattoo.
I think one of the most influential things is I joined with some of my classmates who were here in this room on the civil rights issue, where we decided when we were seeing the sit-ins in the Carolinas that we needed to do something. We organized some, very strangely, fundraising on campus, but we went into Holyoke carrying little cans on the street of Holyoke, and the Holyoke Transcript gave us some good publicity, and we raised what was for us I think $1,800, which in those times that was almost a year's tuition when on room and board my freshman year.
Sort of the plan was to get married, and then that got screwed up, and then I started working as a computer programmer for Morgan Guaranty Trust Company, and they didn't have a computer. They were planning to get a computer, and they were studying what computer to get. It was very strange.
So my immediate plan is I'm going to graduate school in the fall for education at Harvard. Yeah. So I'm a history major here and an education minor, and I've learned a lot about teaching students who are very much like my fellow Mount Holyoke students, very bright students who want to succeed. But what we're finding as we're looking at more and more research is that that's not the students that are in classrooms. The students who are in classrooms are students who have diverse needs, whether they have disabilities, whether they are English language learners, just a whole myriad of things. And we don't have specific classes for that here. We just don't. We're not a big enough program to have that. So I want to learn, how do I teach non-normative students? How do I help those students that I'm going to find in my classroom?
Well, I'm sure, like many of my classmates, the plan is to get a plan and to just keep working until we figure it out. My first job is working for an environmental public health organization, and that has absolutely nothing to do with my degree.
My immediate plan, although everything's still up in the air, I haven't made final decisions and probably won't for at least 2 weeks. But I've gotten offers to work on political campaigns in swing states for the upcoming election cycle, and so I'll be somewhere. Oh, thanks. But like I said, it's still up in the air, and we'll get back to you on what I'll be doing after November, because that's a whole different plan that needs to be worked out. But oh, and I'm a politics major, so I guess it kind of makes sense.
Would general availability of birth control in the mid-60s have made a significant difference to your life at that time?
Do you mean when we were in school? It was available in '63.
Generally available?
Yep.
There's your answer.
No.
Not while we were in school.
But not during college. So what about during college?
When we were in college, no, it wasn't available. But I was still a believer in the all but intercourse kind of sexual experiences.
Venerable.
In my first year at Mount Holyoke, I took a physiology course, required. And we got to the reproductive systems. And our dear professor said, I'd love to talk to you about contraception, but the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts say I cannot do so. And this was before the Supreme Court decision of Connecticut versus, Griswold versus Connecticut, thank you. So we didn't really have it.
People who didn't use contraception and got pregnant had to leave school.
Oh, yes, yes. Even if they, and especially if they were married.
Yes. Love that, especially
Yeah.
if they were married.
Yeah. And remember that advice, help me out with this, with Dr. Patty. If you have to sit on a boy's lap,
You gotta put a newspaper.
put the New York Not a newspaper, the New York Times.
But now listen, now wait. All right, I gotta say that Dr. Patty always wore a man's suit and a tie and the shoes, and yet we believed that there were no lesbians on campus.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to me, and I would like to get married young-ish. My parents are both here. They're very young. Pretty awesome. I'm also very glad that you did not ask me a sex question, because my dad is sitting right there. So. Hey, Dad. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think this answer is very similar to my answer about marriage. I mean, I think it's very personal, and it's so different from person to person, and it's about that choice. It's almost my same answer as the question about heels. Like, I don't own stilettos. I also don't necessarily have plans to have children right now, but maybe I'll get a pair of stilettos and kids too. I don't know.
I really don't see myself having kids before I'm 30. But then again, I never thought I would go to a women's college, so.
Find some time to have space in your life to take yourself seriously, and it's hard to do. It's hard to slow down when you've got all of the energy that you probably have now. And it's a privilege to be able to slow down later, but I wish I had slowed down in many ways along the way.
I'm going to give 2 pieces of advice. One is, it's rubbing off. One is take risks, just do it. And the second is, I'm going to forget it. The second is learn to live with dissonance. That a lot of our world, you're going to face choices and you can't separate them. You could look at human rights, for example, and human rights overlap, and which do you choose? Learn to live with it, because that's the way it is.
I like this very much, and I use this with my students a lot. And it's your risk thing. So you did take mine. But this was the saying.
We went to the same school.
Well, yeah, we did, programmed in the same factory. But what she says, and this may be a slight paraphrase. This may not be an exact quote, but a battleship is safe in port, but that is not where it was built to be. The idea that, I mean, you've got a brain and you can protect that and you can live under the bad, but you're really built to go out and take those chances and everything. And taking chances is scary and requires courage, wouldn't you say?